Welcome everybody back to the Figure Kit Garage. Brent Krug once again with another out-of-the-box review. Today it's Blast from the Past Day and part one of two reviews on kits from the 1990s. The first one we're going to start off with is from the Venus Gradation Hajime Sorayama World, the Volks Orient Hero Series Lady Slave. This is a 1/4 scale kit that was released by Volks in April of 1999. Based on the art of the very prolific illustrator Hajime Sorayama and sculpted by Akihiro Inc. This kit is definitely adult themed, as were most of the kits in this series, and she is one of the first 7 pieces released in this series. Very adult themed in nature, as most of them were, based off of Sorayama's artwork. He never really left anything to the imagination, most of his art pieces, to say the least. This kit is comprised of 44 overall pieces, 19 resin, and 25 metal, and you'll see why. This kit, as old as it is, definitely takes me back to the earliest days of the hobby, especially when kits out of Japan were something to be really chased after. These are very hard to come by now. We were lucky enough to purchase these from a gentleman off of Facebook, and we paid roughly around $400 for this. Originally, this kit sold, now please bear in mind, this is today's US yen to US dollar conversion, but originally they sold for 24,800 yen in Japan, which in today's US dollar runs roughly to $229.81. They originally, HobbyLink Japan had one, their last listing for one, they were going for $243.81, and these kits have been discontinued for quite a long time. Just before I started this video, I looked up some info on this kit, and I found 2 listings on eBay, and both of them were right around the $740 range, still in the box. The box that we got shows some slight wear from the years, a little bit of fading, but nothing too bad. All the parts and pieces, except for one minor little piece of the hair, which we do have intact. All the parts and pieces were in incredible shape, just as they came out of the factory yesterday. To begin with, we'll look at the directions for this kit. This is the first Volks kit that I've ever had in my hands. This is Virginia's kit. She chased this thing for 10 years until she finally got one. And the moment she saw the price, she jumped at it quicker than a hiccup. I wasn't surprised to hear her say, "I want it," at all. Photo of Sorayama's original artwork on the front, showing all the resin parts and then all the metal parts, mostly chain as well as hasps for the clamps or shackles on her ankles and wrists, as well as the hasp for the locks that come with this kit. Very nice detailed breakdown of the assembly, all in Japanese, so she's going to have to translate in her own way as best she can. And more photos on the back showing you how to apply the hasps for the shackles as well as the padlocks themselves. Very suggestive, to say the least. Partial finished kit photo, the bottom right hand. It also included a full color photo of the finished piece. Not sure who did the actual painting and building on it, but it's a really, really beautifully sculpted kit. All the detail in this was something that I was not expecting when we first took it out of the box yesterday when it arrived. I was blown away by the level of detail, especially in what she's wearing. Cannot remember the bustier itself. The detail is just ridiculously done well, and you can see all the chains and how they fit in. Then we have a little catalog, and I'll cover part of that up. I'm not going to be able to do this with all of them because she is bare-breasted. Nice little catalog that they included. If I get dinged for this one, so be it. But these are all the kits that they offered. The Commando and the Amazon. The Blind Beauty. Cutie Honey from the anime of the same name. Sorayama's original artwork for the Blind Beauty and the kit of Sister Jill. And then on the back, of course, Lady Slave. These kits have become very popular, unfortunately, for recasters. I've seen a lot of them on eBay that have been recasted that sell for far less than what they originally sold for or what they're even going for now. Which is a really sad thing, but unfortunately, recasting has become a evil that we can't get rid of. And that's all I'll say about that. One of the bonuses that came with this kit, and Virginia and I were both completely shocked. I didn't know that they did this with their kits, but they included a collection of postcards. Volks Postcards Collection Blind Beauty. Now, she's not the only one that appears in this. Most of these display some type of nudity in some way, shape, or form. And I'll show you one of them that's not nude in any way, shape, or form. Shows you how amazing of an illustrator Hajime Sorayama really is. Really beautiful, beautiful bonus that was included with this. She flat out said right at the very beginning, these are not getting sent anywhere. If anything, we'll probably wind up framing them up and keeping them as frame collectibles at some point when we move back east. They'll get put up in the hobby room, I'm sure. I don't blame her for it. We looked through every single one of them, and the postcards they're exquisite, like miniature pieces of artwork you can hang all by themselves. I know there was a limited print of Sorayama's Lady Slave that I had accidentally discovered this. Just a print of this was selling for over $18,000, and it was one of his originals. So Sorayama's artwork is very, very in demand for those that appreciate that type of art. To begin with this kit, we're going to start off with the base, like typically normal for me. Very beautifully done, metal door. The S logo engraved into it. Very smooth casting, little bit of excess flashing. I'm not going to be able to test fit her at all because of all the flashing that has to be cleaned up. But she measures right around 11.5 inches tall at 1/4 scale. So she's a big girl, and she's going to take up a marginal amount of room. The base doesn't take up a very large footprint, thankfully, but it's very thin. We're probably going to have to put this on a wooden base and find a way to get pins in her feet, because although there are holes right here for it, there are no corresponding pins in her feet cast in to hold her onto the base. So we're going to be very, very careful how we do that. We'll start off with the little small pieces. I'm going to keep the small pieces in the bag, so I'm sorry you guys won't get to see them up close and personal, but this is the collar she wears around her neck. Perfectly keyed. One of the metal hasps will go in those little holes. the 4 padlocks that are included with this kit, and it might be a little bit hard to tell in the plastic, but there's a S etched into each one of those. The corresponding holes pre-cast in. Really nice looking double-ended padlocks. Parts of her bustier top that will hang down, and as well as part of her garters, I believe on her right leg, that are going to go on separately. And the castings on these are really amazing. I knew Volks was very well known for their quality and the type of kits that they produced, but this is really extraordinary to look at. Definitely a piece from a bygone era that we'll never see again. Heels for her shoes, cleanly cast. A little bit of cleanup with the flashing, marked for left and right heels. Big old stilettos. And we'll start with the upper half of her body. And you see what I mean by the detail. All the lace sculpted into the top, all the way across. Just unbelievable in the amount of detail that they were able to get into the sculpt and into the mold. This was something I've never seen anything close to this. Absolutely perfect in every conceivable way. Little straps going across. The little lace detail across the top itself, all the way around her back. Just exquisitely cast in every way. That's where one of the little pieces will go that hang down. They actually have keys for that that'll fit in. She does have mold lines. Kits in the 1990s were not without their mold line problems. Not really heavy mold lines. They actually, nope, they go all the way through. It looked like it stopped at the top of the bustier, but nope, it goes all the way down. But the margin of error for ruining any of the detail is very minimal. Seaming and blending that in that'll be a challenge, but it'll be really nicely done when it's finished. Now this piece here, I have silly putty covering private parts because she is sculpted anatomically correct. So that was a nice little Sunday surprise that neither one of us saw coming, but it is what it is. Garters hanging down. Just beautiful overall. The level of detail on this is just mind-blowing for what they did in the clothing to get it all completely correct. Little bun shot for the folks. Silly putty covering up those nether regions that are not allowed to be seen. Don't need YouTube giving me a veritable amount of hell grief and shit for that one. Seam line that can be cleaned up and blended in. And for the way this thing is supposed to fit together, once the pour spout is cleaned off of here, is she should sit perfectly down on the lower half of the body. Excellent casting. Then we're going to move to the legs. Very long legs. Heels nicely detailed. The detail in the feet, where you can see the bones and the muscle, just outrageous in how that is well done. Little detail towards the back will be the stocking area if you wanted to render that as is. The shackles, nicely sculpted. Again, seam lines are going to be visible throughout every piece on this kit, no matter what. The other part of the garters, and this is her left leg. And the other garter partially twisted and flipped around. That's a really nice detail that you don't see very often. Makes it a little bit confusing as to which way is up, but it'll be a lot of fun to see her render that. Actually really nice. And then the right leg with the stocking top. Might be able to fit that piece in there. Oh wow. Minimal cleanup. There's a little pour spout at the top of the leg. Fits in there almost perfect before the cleanup. Almost no seam work required. Wrinkles in the stocking. Shackles nicely done. Labeled for right. Flashing along the bottom of the heel, and we'll have to, like I said, drill holes for that base. In the right arm and hand, this is where the blending of this kit's going to be really important to get that one area once it's glued together. It's going to have to be seamed so well you'll never know it was more than one piece. Shackle around the wrist. Fingernails. The details in the hands. Just beautiful casting. The casting is just smooth. No graininess to it. No air bubbles in any way, shape, or form that I've seen thus far. And the left arm and hand with a shackle. Adjust that light a little bit. Kind of blurring out here. More detail in the fingernails and the hands. Just cleanly executed all the way around. And then we have the hair and the head, and you can see these little indentations in her lip is where she's going to be having a lock hanging out of her mouth. You can actually see little line detail work. It's kind of hard to see it in the video. In her eyelashes. Really, really cool. Little hair at the top of her forehead. Eyebrows sculpted very, very gently, but really well done. Eyes are sculpted in. Little hair on the sides, around the edges of the forehead. Hair hanging down the back of her neck, which is a really, really nice touch. Beautiful kit. See why a lot of people like these kits. Are really well done. And then there's the hair. Very nicely rendered based on the artwork. This kit is definitely open to interpretation on everything. Clothing, skin tone, hair color, you name it. Seam line all the way across. Should not be a problem blending that in. And now she fits into the hair. It's kind of funny that they detail the right side of the face and you'll never ever see it, since she fits like so. Blend that in with a little epoxy sculpt, just a touch, not a whole heck of a lot. There's a little bit of a gap, but it's not real bad. Blend that in. It'll be absolutely perfect. They even marked the seam line down the side of the face with a red marker. Get this damn thing to focus. There we go. Overall, an amazing kit. She's really lucky to get this. And then we have the 25 metal pieces in a bag. Chains, rods, lock hasps, you name it, it's in there. Make sure I have a definite pair of cutters on hand for that. And the right type of glue to make sure those hold in and stay in. For the first Blast from the Past review, this is an amazing thing to look at. Volks was always known for their quality of their kits as well, you know, in casting, sculpting, piece counts. This is definitely a Grail kit. Virginia knew it, and it's now crossed off her list. So she knows the feeling of chasing a Grail kit for years and years and years, and finally getting her hands on one. She knows how it feels when the chase is over. Very, very gratifying. So for this review, Blast from the Past Part 1, this is the Figure Kit Garage. Signing off. Stay tuned for Part 2. That will be coming later on here in a bit. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Build a kit.